Today's workshop, too called for this palace or place, sort of climate and environment in the late second millennium BC, forms part of a much larger research project for which we have received a major grant from the French-speaking community of Belgium via the university's Research Council and the Academy of Louvain. This grant will allow us, for the next 5 years, to invest heavily in the exploration of the 13th century BC in the Eastern Mediterranean. So before Simon takes you to the essence of the matters at stake, I would like to add some explanation, a little bit of perspective on the big why of this 13th century project, A World in Crisis, Archaeological and Epigraphical Perspectives on the Late Bronze Age Mediterranean Systems Collapse, a case study approach. The primary reason is not, as some may think, the global economic crisis, which has struck all of us, but especially our Greek colleagues particularly hard, although it's true that the project does acquire some actual societal pertinence because of this. No, the specific reason is archaeological and is connected to our excavations at Sisi, a site on the north coast of the island of Crete, where our team has been excavating for the Belgian School at Athens since 2007. Within the large residential complex, we have dubbed building CD on top of the hill. We came across plenty of evidence and different phases dating to the 13th century BC, the period immediately preceding what has traditionally been called the crisis years. Some of the features encountered, such as the shrine which you see on the bottom right, but especially the columnar or pillar halls, resemble more elements known from later 12th century sites than they fit into earlier or contemporary patterns. But the unusual thing is that they are here combined within one large complex. We cannot call this complex a palace, but it was certainly a main building with multiple functions, hence the allusion to palace in the title of the workshop, but it is also the moment that many other real palaces, of course, throughout the Mediterranean and Levant are destroyed and abandoned. At Sisi, there's no doubt about the 13th century BC date. And what makes this phase at Sisi even more interesting is the discovery, within one of its rooms, of two nests of spool-shaped loom weights of a type common during the 12th century BC and typical for sites in the Near East, the Levant and Israel. There, they are usually connected with the arrival of the sea people and explained as a result of migrations from the west. Since they occur already in the 13th century at Sisi, it suggests a major change in textile producing traditions and the potential presence of foreign women on the site before. Excuse me. The complex at Sisi was abandoned suddenly. Apart from metal, everything else was left in place. And Sisi is not alone to witness such abandonment during the mature 13th century BC. Traditionally, migrations and pirates have been blamed, or as Eric Klein calls it, and will call it, I suppose, tonight in his recent book, 1177, a perfect storm, a congruence of calamities involving earthquakes, climate change, rebellions, famines, droughts, and migrations. While this scenario leaves everybody happy, it asks for more scientific backup, hence this workshop. A year ago, when we launched our major project with a workshop on chronology and pottery, our then Vice-Chancellor of Research, Vincent Isabit, started off his introduction with a slide of what was called the first climate refugee, Yuan Teitiota, from the South Pacific island nation of Kiribati. His low-lying homeland is likely to be engulfed by waves by the end of this century and to become uninhabitable long before then. His appeal to New Zealand was rejected, however, not because the Court of Appeal didn't find his grounds unconvincing, but because, and I cite, at a stroke millions of people who are facing medium-term economic deprivation or the immediate consequence of natural disasters or warfare would be entitled to protection under the Refugee Convention, end of quote. The main issue here, of course, where our project is concerned, is whether sudden or long-term changes in the local environment because of climate changes could have influenced traditional subsistent patterns to such a degree that they could have left traces in the ecological record. So we're primarily interested in finding an explanation for the massive scale abandonments during the late 13th century BC of coastal settlements and the establishment of mountain sites, often at considerable height and distant from the sea. Can this be a result of disruptions in the seasonal weather pattern? Are the sites created by what we nowadays call environmental or climate refugees? Simon's workshop is the fifth within the collaborative research action activities on the 13th century Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean. But it's already the 11th international meeting our research group Aegis has organized, following earlier meetings published as Monuments of Minos, Architecture and Power in the Bronze Age Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean, Back to the Beginning, Destruction, and All That Rubble Leads to Trouble, on Earthquakes on Minoan Crete, How Long is a Century, Damaged Goods and Fragmented Objects, Archaeology of the Sea, Crisis Cults and Cults of Crisis, and Crisis in the Text of the Ancient Near East. In addition, a series of lectures are organized on a regular basis, and a PhD concentrating on epigraphic and literary sources of crisis situation in Near Eastern sources is on its way. Excavations in which members of the project are involved at Sisi, Anavlogos, Palais Castro, and Malia will do an effort to reveal more late Minoan III evidence, following earlier work at these sites. As we speak, we have members of our team that are involved in a new joint project at the 13th century BC site of Pila Kokinokremnos on Cyprus, together with Joachim Bretschneider of the Universities of Ghent and Leuven and Athanasia Kanda. Simon, Nicholas, and myself, as well as several other members of the team present here today, will be leaving for the excavation as soon as this workshop is over. Eventually, we hope to see more clearly what actually happened, not only in the different regions of Crete and Cyprus, but also in Anatolia, Greece, and the rest of the Near East. And we sincerely hope that the present workshop will help us to do this and understand the role of climate and environment in the understanding of the major changes that lay ahead. Now, before I finish this short introduction, I would like to thank again the Research Council, but also the Institute for Civilizations, Arts and Letters and its president, Professor Colli, who will be with us this evening, and the Center for the Study of Ancient Worlds and its head, Professor Cavalieri, for their continuous support, as well as the National Research Foundation for the financial aid to make this workshop possible. I want to thank also my three co-promoters, as well as the other members of the team, and especially Nicolas Kress, who will be filming you all day through, and Nathalie Koosman. I hope Simon forgives me in already thanking all the speakers for going through the trouble of coming over to Louvain-la-Neuve, and I hope you will find this meeting fruitful and enjoy your time with us, as well as the people who've made an effort to attend this meeting and learn from the discussions, and Jenny and Eric for having accepted to preside some of the sessions. This said, I hope you realize that this is not a conference or a colloquium, but a workshop, so with the stress on work. So let's get to it. Thank you.